people will demand more from the media. That time is now. There comes a time when the media will empower the audience rather than strike fear. That time is now. Join me for a provocative conversation on
Good morning and welcome to the Dr. Baruch Show here on the E-Life Media Network, where we bring to you health information. This is a health literacy show. We call it Take Charge of Your Health, where we bring information that will support those of us who want to figure this thing out and not be continually dependent upon a system that makes money off of keeping us sick, keeping us ignorant, and watching us as a class and category of people get sick and die rather than what I think every other creature on the planet does, which is if they die, get old and die. So this is what we do here. And for those of you who would be so inclined, if you're watching us on Facebook or if you're watching us on the internet, please let your friends and family know to like and follow us on all the social media platforms at the E-Life Media Group. You can also find us live at elifemedia.net, and you can download the app at the Google Play Store, and you can download the TuneIn app on your Apple phones and go to the E-Life Media channel. So today, like all other days, is going to be a lot of fun, especially my phone is already chirping and ringing, and it's not in my pocket. I don't have it right next to me. So we're going to be talking about health and wellness, and we're going to be talking about it from a perspective that is not new, but it's probably not something you've necessarily heard, especially not in your traditional medical or pharmaceutical industrial complex situation. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on my guests, and I'm going to ask that they introduce themselves. I'll start first with, you all want to get right up on the mics. If start with Brother Ibrahim, whom I've known for many years and has been has exposed me over the course of the last week to layers of himself that I wasn't familiar with and that I'm learning more about. And, you know, it's just good to know that there's this type of mindset, there's this thinking, there's this activity in the community, in the world that we're in. And Brother Ibrahim, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and letting us know who you are, you know, where you're from, and what. You don't have to go into the Earth Center. I know we're going to talk about that. Our brother's going to share information on that. But then I'd like for you to introduce him as we move forward. Brother Ibrahim, good morning. How are you?
Greetings. My name is Ibrahim Toure. I currently reside in Baltimore. And, of course, we have a wonderful community growing here in the DMV and throughout the country with persons who are trying to open their minds and free themselves from what we observe here in this country that we reside in. Right now, Dr. Baruch came in last week just to sharing some food offerings and, stop by to see a good Baba, and we spoke a little bit. I'm currently an initiate with the MTOM School of Kemetic Spirituality, and as an initiate, I've been introduced to, I'll say, sacred information that have been passed down for generations and generations and generations. And within that, it's keeping me on a course to reunite myself with my ancestor lineage and to continue to promote our traditional aspects here in the place that I currently live. Last week I was just bringing in some papers, some sunny sides, and some postcards to give information to the community at large that way back to our traditional paths is here. And with that, I would introduce our teacher, Zeshmi, who has come from his home to Baltimore to introduce us to the information that he has humbly obtained from his master, who he will introduce. Nehez Meniooh is coming from different walks from Seattle to Chicago and now here in Baltimore, following the paths of his ancestors and educating others in the knowledge that he's received from his master. And we call him Zeshmi, which is the teacher of all the Imtam schools throughout the world. And with that, I'll say Ujjayi, peace.
Peace. Yes, sir, brother. Well, good greetings and welcome to the Dr. Baruch Show and the E-Life Media Network. And I can already say and see that the reverence that is given to you and the respect and regard that's given to you makes me know that and the resume that I've heard thus far on you, you're not just another brother walking down the street. Nor are any of us, right?
Yeah.
And
at the same time, we all are.
Yes. Okay. I can get with that. That's what's up. And I want you to give me a little bit. I know Brother Ibrahim shared with us, a little bit about yourself. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we dive into the Earth Center?
Well, thank you, Dr. Baruch, and good morning. I want to first express my gratitude for the opportunity and the privilege to travel. What city are we in now? I'm new to Maryland.
This is Prince George's County, Capitol Heights.
Okay. To come down here and share information and have a conversation with other like minds that are trying to take responsibility for our own health and our own survival in a place such as this. It's truly a pleasure to be here. I'm thanking you again and greeting the audience, the listening audience.
Great. That's what's up. Now tell us, what is the Earth Center?
The Earth Center is an organization. It's an international organization that was started about 15 years ago. About 15, 16 years ago now, by a spiritual master from Burkina Faso, West Africa. Many people are unaware of Burkina Faso, West Africa. Just in my experience in the West, Burkina Faso is a country that is situated north of Ghana, Togo, Benin, which are some more commonly heard countries of West Africa. But Burkina Faso is known throughout the continent as being one of the sources for traditional knowledge, one of the sources for the oldest knowledge that has been kept and preserved on the continent of Africa. And that knowledge even traces itself back across the Sahara to the Nile Valley civilization. And we call him the prophet. The traditions know him as the prophet of the Kemetic traditions because he was given permission by his elders. He was given permission to bring the initiatic culture and the knowledge that has been preserved to those in the West, those in the diaspora, those around the world who have been cut off from that knowledge through the ages of enslavement, colonialism, neo-colonialism. And he traveled to Chicago, Illinois, which was his first stop, to set up schools that would continue the traditional initiations that are done and have been done since the Pharaonic period, but have been done in secrecy in the African bush. And the Earth Center is an organization made up of 3 branches in order to kind of meet its mission of promoting and reconnecting humanity to those original cultures, that original knowledge. The first branch is the School of Philosophy and Spirituality, which Ibrahim was saying that he is currently an initiate at. The second branch is the Firefly Productions Publishing House, and through that branch we produce printed materials. We have magazines, newspapers, books, calendars, posters, audio and video lectures, where we are trying to disseminate the knowledge that is coming from the elders in the existing Kemetic temples back home. Information that has, like I said, been kept secret for the last couple thousand years in order to preserve it. And then the third branch is the Ancestral Natural Healing branch, and that is a branch of many healers around the continent, around the traditional societies of the continent, who are working together to preserve and protect traditional knowledge from colonial imperialists who are seeking to gain knowledge and gain recipes to make money off of them, and kind of isolate or devalue the traditional knowledge bank, traditional medicinal knowledge bank. So these three branches work together to promote Kemetic culture, and we have been doing so since 1998. And in a nutshell, that's what the Earth Center is. We do a lot of activities. We have a lot of projects going on the continent to help kind of support and provide funding and manpower to the traditional societies that have been keeping these traditions alive. But in a nutshell, that's the Earth Center.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And you said this has been here in the States since 1998, is that?
1998 is when we kind of started the organization.
Mm-hmm.
The Prophet arrived here in 1995, and he started by starting with one of the publications just to kind of get some information out there before he set up the classes and set up the organization and, did all of the legal corporation things.
Not a question that I planned on asking you, but what's up with Chicago? Because it seems like a lot of stuff comes out of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with the vortex, the energy field out of Chicago? Is there something there, or is it just, that there's so much already going there that's where everybody goes, and as a result of that, that's where a lot of things spring out of?
Yes. I'm sure there's something there. I can't, as an initiate of the Prophet, him being my master, I can't pretend to know why he chose that particular place. But we can see that it's like a midpoint for the states, and it also is very, very spiritually powerful place. You have such a big freshwater lake there, and all of the energies that provides.
That's what's up. And you do healing work, and in that healing realm, I would suspect that this is, unlike in the United States culture where you have healers, or you don't even call them healers, so they're doctors. They're like one doctor for every 250 or 150,000 or however many of them it is, however they got that broken down. Mm-hmm. When I talk to Brother Ibrahim, I'm listening to and engaging somebody who gives me the sense that he's a healer. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking to you, and I get that same sense. Is healer or healing a part of the culture, and that is this a part of just everybody's knowledge base, and what it is that everybody has to gain or do in their initiation process into the Earth Center?
Yes and no.
Okay.
What I'll say about that, it's a good question, because what I'll say about that is what's very important for every spirit or soul coming to life is for that soul to go into initiation. In the Kemetic traditions, that's the way we see it. No matter who that soul is coming to Earth, no matter how advanced or elevated that soul is, everyone is initiated back into the living and the culture of the living. So by going through initiation, everyone is taught the energies of preserving life and constructing, or destroying life and destroying. And by doing so, you can kind of sense on those in initiation that reverence for the preservation of life and the importance put on our own survival, and being very attentive to our own survival, and not allowing it to go into anybody else's hands. Mm-hmm. So that in itself, we're starting the principles of healing and healing ourselves. But in the traditions, in order to call yourself a healer, you have to be healing people. If you haven't healed people, then you can't call yourself a healer. And if you haven't been through the initiations of the healer, then out of respect of all of those powerful men and women who did that and did that well, you don't necessarily call yourself a healer, but your ancestral traditions are definitely based on the principles of healing.
Mm-hmm. And the importance of staying connected to our ancestry. and the information that they had. I'd like for you to bring that forward. So in 1,000, 2,000, a million years ago, there was a different formula. There was a different world. There were different health challenges. There were different. The earth was made up of a different, horticulture. The plants gave us greater benefit, or maybe in some instances not as good. But we're looking now at a different world. How do you bring that healing knowledge forward into a world that is now accustomed to popping a pill and or calling somebody who again makes money off of keeping us sick? How do you bring that forward in such a way that people would embrace it and engage it and not chuckle at it and think that that's not going to work? This is 2016. Who's still rubbing some leaves together and putting them in a pot, and who's doing that? Come on.
Yes. Yes. Good question. Well, I'd have to say that I don't know if I really consider how to market it or bring it to people, because what really the Prophet has done is given us an opportunity to kind of reconnect to ourselves and our ancestry. So when you ask about the importance of ancestors and the ancestral spirit and remaining connected to that, really we have to begin to see that we are our ancestors.
Ooh.
They don't have any place in life besides within us. So we're carrying their blood. They pass their blood down to their children, and their children passed it to their children until now it's reached us. So we are really kind of like their expression in the world of the living. So if we are to deny them, then we're really denying ourselves. And if we are to ignore them and not feed them or not invest in them and make sure that we have harmony with them, then it's just allowing for disharmony in ourselves. And we can see the consequences of that in our societies around America, where the connection to ancestral wisdom and ancestral reverence has been removed.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've been given an opportunity by the Kemetic temples to kind of reestablish that connection and begin to live in the way that our ancestors did, it's just that it's an opportunity. So the truth of the matter is as we study, as we become aware of some things and conscious of some things, we learn that the system that's in place now is a system that does a good job at hiding the true face of the origins of things. Because even if we were to check the origins of the pharmaceutical companies and things that we tend to value for some reason, even though we see that people get on pharmaceuticals and stay on pharmaceuticals, even them we can see at their origins and at their roots, they just come from somebody rubbing together plants.
Right.
And somebody finding out which plants we rub together in order to heal a certain illness, and then they took that recipe into the lab and copied it and made it into a chemical and then represented it to us as a pharmaceutical medicine.
Right.
So now we have the opportunity to return to the real thing. So that's an opportunity.
Great. And we're gonna take a brief station break here in just a second, but I want to come back and I want to talk about not only the healing and the work that has to be done in order to either bring about healing or to recover health, but what do we do and what is being taught in the maintenance of health, and I think it's the fact that you're tapping into the ancient wisdom, and you're tapping into a system and an understanding that was has been here far longer than anything that we recognize here in the United States of America as far as an institution or organization or a philosophy. I look forward to hearing that Kemetic understanding, and I want to drive down the road of even understanding more about what you mean when you say Kemit. So we're going to be right back with more of the Dr. Baruch Show here on the E-Life Media Network. You all stay tuned for more great programming as we are interviewing Brother Nehez Meniooh and his brother Ibrahim Toure. We'll be right back in just a minute. You all stay tuned.
Swinging our hips from side to side.
Okay.
It's good. Surfing all and it's good, good. Surfing all and it's good.
We are back on the Dr. Baruch Show, and we're talking to brothers who represent the Earth Center and Kemetic tradition and Kemetic knowledge and history of the world and history of culture. And this is, just to talk about a piece of this community would leave so many of us and our audience, of course, interested in hearing more. We want to learn more. We want to know what else is going on. And so we're going to get to that. For those of you in the viewing or listening audience who would like to call in, you can do so at 240-455-5934. Again, 240-455-5934. And we're talking to Brother Nehez Meniooh, and we've got Brother Ibrahim along with him, Brother Ibrahim Toure. When we went to break, I was I was going down the road of, well, a couple of things. One, the Kemit. I'd like for you to tell us what is Kemit, where is Kemit, and what is the, what is this Kemetic tradition, and without, because I know that's probably a really broad question, but Kemetic tradition and culture, that we have in us, that never left us, that's still a part of us, that we just don't tap into because we keep on listening to pop culture, radio, and television. So it deadens our senses and ability to vibrate at frequencies, which will allow us to transmit and receive that information. And I'm going to pass it on to you now, brother.
Okay. It's a great question. It's a very important question. And I'm glad you came back to it, because in radio interviews, I always try to pick my battles on the ignorance that is out there in the popular culture. So I'm glad you brought me back to this one.
Great.
Kemit, there's a lot of misunderstanding about Kemit today. Kemit is originally the name of the culture that was the name of the culture that was associated with the Pharaonic society, or the name of the culture of the Pharaonic society. Nowadays, Kemet is minimized to the area of what we call the Nile Valley, or what we call Egypt. But we have to understand that the pharaonic culture was a worldwide culture. That's why even now you find anthropologists finding pyramids, finding hieroglyphs all around the world. So you had the Kemetic culture span around the world, and the kingships, the traditional societies that were ruled by a king in the Americas, in China, in around Asia, around Europe, in Australia, all of them really considered themselves as being Kemetic, practicing Kemetic culture. So that pharaonic culture at a certain point, because of the intensity of the invasions that were happening from those north of the Mediterranean coming across the sea, wanting to kind of loot and grab up the wealth and the authority that they saw Kemet had on the world, the priesthood and the leadership made a decision to cross the Sahara to kind of take the culture underground. Mm-hmm. So all of the culture that you see, all of the traditional culture that you see throughout the continent of Africa is really coming from the Kemetic culture. It's really like branches of the Kemetic culture, because when they migrated, each family, each bloodline took their specialty to their own locations. And under the Pharaoh, they were all kind of unified and working towards human enlightenment. And that's so Kemet is that's really what we mean when we say Kemet.
Okay. And we're talking as healers, we're talking about health, but not just health after you've encountered the challenge, not health after you've gotten diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, other toxicities, other imbalances, other nutritional deficiencies. We're talking about also the maintenance of health inside of the body. What is it that your community, what is it that your leaders teach us about just the maintenance of health as a lifestyle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is also a very big question, because there's so many misunderstandings and superstitions that are floating around in the world of health and health sciences today. But the main principle on health, according to our Kemetic ancestors in the Kemetic schools, is that health is based on the balance of forces. And being that health and life itself is based on the balance of forces, health and the maintenance of health is learning the principles of nature, learning the principles of life, so that we can find our harmonious position in that balance of forces. Mm-hmm. So the perspective is in many ways very different from the one we have in the West, because as we can see in the West, our leaders have got us to believe, or led us to believe, that you can solve problems by killing. So here, in order to maintain health, we just tend to kill all of the nature around us that could attack our health. And so we disinfect everything, we bleach everything, and we're just trying to kind of push nature away and put ourselves in a capsule. But we don't really call that health, because we can't disconnect ourselves from nature and the earth and think that we have health. So really it's about maintaining ourselves within that balance of forces. And so that's done mainly, or first and foremost, through knowledge, learning the principles, learning the principles of nature, learning what affects us in different ways, and then making sure that we can stay in a balance between the forces that we are in dialogue with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now how does that impact diet? Tell me about the diet of the Earth Center community.
Again, the diet is a question that comes up so much, because we, first and foremost, we have to understand that we live in a marketplace.
Sure.
America is a marketplace, and a lot of us don't understand that, because when you're born in a marketplace, it's just home. So you don't realize that your home is the place that others around the world come to in order to make money and send money back to their homes. And you see yourself as you don't realize that your home has become the marketplace, and that's a very detrimental perspective, because in the marketplace, everybody's there to sell. So whenever you have a need, whenever you have an interest, somebody's always going to pop up, say, I got it to sell you. And in that kind of context, that's why it's so important to do what you, Elder Baba, are doing, to make sure that more and more people understand that the only person that will see ourselves as a person that deserves to be protected, that deserves to survive, is ourselves. Because everybody else is just at the marketplace. They're trying to make the money to help themselves and their own family survive. So being that we're in that kind of situation, many superstitions has entered the realm of diet, and it's become that diet has reached a level that is mainly ideological now, because the way our ancestors saw the diet is you have two main food groups. You have occasional foods that you should only eat occasionally, because your body either doesn't need them in excess, or they can't handle them in excess, they can't store them in excess. And then foods that you call staple foods, the foods that your body gains energy from, and even if you eat too much of them, the body just stores the energy that it gains. Within the occasional foods, you have what we call emergency foods. And those emergency foods are foods that in excess even become harmful to us. And so we could easily identify those as like animal products, eggs and things like this, where when we're eating them excessively, they begin to poison the blood, poison the organs. So really, in the Kemetic traditions, we give each initiate this understanding, this knowledge, and now it's for each person to take responsibility for their life and eat accordingly, so that they're not destroying themselves. So that's what I would say, because it's hard for me to really give a diet, because food is really about survival. So you can't really give one type of diet for the whole planet that will allow everybody to survive, because even if it's wise in America to eat predominantly vegetarian diet, which I would, definitely support, because the meat industry here has been given to, the market. But in the desert of Africa, I can't tell them to be vegetarian. You see, that would not allow for their survival.
Or in Alaska.
Exactly.
Couldn't do
Alaska.
that. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just about gaining the knowledge and then applying the knowledge.
So tell me about the priest and the healer, about that process. Who is the priest and the healer, and what do they do? What's their job and responsibility?
Well, the healer and the priest traditionally are those who are very serious about their initiation, and they continue to try to acquire knowledge in order to not only be able to take responsibility for themselves, but also their communities. And so a priest is very, very different than what we know in the modern religious context, because it's not about learning a doctrine or proselytizing. It's more about learning the principles of nature to a level where now you can offer your community assistance in balancing the energies of the community and preserving the life of the community. And the healer is the same, but at a lower level, where the person is focused on doing that for the health. The priest does that kind of at a higher spiritual dimension as well.
So am I correct in drawing the correlation between the priest and the healer, that there's a connection between spirituality and our physical health and well-being?
Very much so. It will be very hard to separate the two.
And can you then help us understand then, is it the sick heart that creates the sick spirit, or does it happen in the other direction?
Yeah, it's kind of a dialogue. The human being is made up of many components. In the West and in the modern systems of education, we really minimize it to maybe the body and the soul, or the body, the mind, and the spirit. But really, we have many dimensions, and we have many, many things that are affecting us in nature from the spiritual perspective. and even to separate the spiritual and the physical perspective becomes very, very difficult, because even we can see when we look under a microscope, things just seem to get like they have less and less parts that we can clearly see.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up. And would you consider yourself then on the path of being a medical doctor in the traditional modern medical world sense, or are you on the path of being a naturopath or a natural healer?
All of those titles, doctors, naturopath, all of them are coming from a culture and a tradition on which I'm just not interested in gaining any validation from. What we have to understand first, or what we have to understand that's really important, is that what really heals is tradition. Even more so than plants, even more so than any modality, is tradition. It's the body of knowledge that has been passed down from your ancestors from generation to generation on how to use a particular substance or thing in order to bring about balance to the body. So I am an initiate and a healer in the system of Kemet, in the Kemetic traditions of healing, which traditionally we refer to as Sunt. And in that tradition, we call the healer a Sunu. So that's my title, and that's my interest.
Mm-hmm. And do you have, in your healing tradition, do you have herbal remedies, nutritional supplement remedies, homeopathic remedies, pharmaceutical drug remedies? What is your remedy or category? How do you categorize your remedies?
A healer is really expected to be able to utilize whatever he can and that nature provides in order to heal. One of the most effective and kind of one of the most effective ways is through the plant kingdom. And so herbal remedies, herbal medicines are in large part how we heal kind of most effectively and most quickly. But you also have another branch of healing in the Kemetic traditions, which is putting more attention, and the two are not really separate, but putting more attention on the energetic dimension of a person, because and that's a big thing in the West and the communities around the globe that have been disconnected from tradition, because for our ancestors it was very important to maintain the cleanliness of the energetic channels that affect us. So the channel of energy between you and those who carried your blood that came before you, if they died suffering, if they lived in a situation of suffering, their suffering, even after they lose their body, is going to continue to affect you through those channels that you're connected with them through. Like I said earlier, you carried their blood. Also, the natural principles that we live in on the planet, if you are kind of crossing or violating them, that does a lot to dirty or bring imbalance to your energetic channels. So there are ways that we can interrogate the energies coming from the earth in order to kind of clean those channels for a human being and kind of heal illness and imbalance before it really shows itself on the physical dimension.
We had a brother by the name of Brother Meniooh. I don't know whether you're familiar with him, but Brother Meniooh was on our show, and he talked about interrogating those channels, and he talked about energy healing, and he talked about using or getting readings and getting information from the information, or getting information from the sources of information that are all out here that many of us don't tap into. And one of the things that he was working with, although he didn't get a chance to demonstrate it for us on the set, was using a pendulum as a way to determine whether something was a good thing or that was a bad thing. And I want you to talk about that. And I also want you to talk about communicating with your ancestors and communicating with those that have yet to be presented to us in the physical human form, or at least in this dispensation of time. We have not seen them, those being our children and grandchildren that are yet unborn. So we'll start with the energy sciences and energy healing, and whether those are some of the things that you do in getting readings, and then jump over into are they here? You said that they're still here. How are they here? How do we communicate with them, and how is that beneficial to us?
Mm-hmm. Okay. For the first question about energy science and the science of energy readings, the sciences are coming from the Kemetic traditions, and you can see all kinds of sciences of what we might call divination, what we might call energy readings throughout the planet. But we can trace all of those to a source science in the Kemetic lands, or in the Nile Valley, and that was called Umtam. And you can notice that the name of the school of initiation in the Earth Center is called Umtam, which means inside the earth. Because the science is really a science that's based on the fact that the earth emits energies to the rest of the cosmos, and by doing so it allows for a universal harmony. While our modern scientists are telling us it's because of gravity that our planets stay in orbit and all of that, really our ancestral wisdom tells us that there's really like a dialogue of energies between cosmic bodies, and our earth emits its communication or its identity and energy to the cosmos. Up until now in the West, we've mainly been most aware of the science of astrology, which is trying to read the positions of the planets and the cosmic bodies away from Earth and see how they affect us. But now we can kind of see how partial that is, or kind of primitive that is, because the fact is we're standing on a cosmic body, and that's the one that we're born on, that's the one that we eat from, that's the one that we die and we're buried in. So the original science and the sciences that are alive on the continent of Africa of reading the energies are reading the actual energies being emitted from Earth, and by doing so you can read the energies of any of the entities or life forces on Earth itself. The original science is called Umtam, and we do those type of readings. Those are done, maybe people have seen images of African priests or Kemetic priests writing symbols in the sand. But then you also have a wide range of ways that you can capture the earth energies to diagnose or interrogate a person's energies. You might see it done with cowrie shells, Ifa, you might see it. There's many ways that you can do it. So that definitely has its place, and is a big column of the Kemetic traditions. As far as the ancestors now and how they live with us, the ancestors, really the first thing that everybody, and especially our listening audience, must understand is that everybody does not have the privilege of having ancestors. And what I mean by that is that there's a difference between a dead relative and an ancestor. So if we are living kind of ignorant to the fact that those who lived before us, those who passed their life down to us, they need something from us after they lose that body, and after now they live in the unseen dimension. If we're not aware of that, then we can't do what's needed for them to feed their energies, to support their energies. Because the truth is, just like when we are born in this dimension, we need people to take care of us in order to go on. When a human being is born, if the parents don't take care of them, we don't survive. We can't sustain ourselves. On that side, in the dimension of the world of the dead, when a spirit is born there, when they leave here, they need the living to kind of sustain their energies and feed their energies. And so you see that as a big another big aspect of the culture of our ancestors, African culture, and that's even, you see that all around the world in indigenous cultures where you have ancestral reverence, ancestral worship, offerings to ancestors. And that's often kind of where the modern system is targeting, kind of putting those feelings of fear and discomfort in us when we even hear about the ceremonies where they're now interacting with the world of the dead. But that's a very important process for us, because that's really now what allows those dead relatives to become ancestors and have a positive influence and a harmonious influence on our lives. So there's that aspect, and that process is a very simple process. It's just nothing is simple when we're ignorant of it, which is mainly just a small food offering that can be given, and the Earth Center has videos and literature to help teach, or you can go to one of our centers and learn it. The other aspect is that every birth in the Kemetic traditions, every birth is seen as a reincarnation. So when we have our children, they are our ancestors returning. So they also live like that through us.
All right, great. Again, we're talking to Brother Nehez Meniooh. Pronounce that for me.
Meniooh.
Meniooh. Okay, that's what's up. And that is a Kemetic name?
Yes.
Okay. And when we come back, I want to talk to you about, I would suspect that, or you told me actually off air, that this isn't something that you were born into, but in fact you were trained or going through the initiation process. So you're going through that initiation process. I want to learn about who you were as you then found this new tradition, this new understanding, and what it is that attracted you to it. And because there are many people that are looking and listening who don't have the knowledge, who can't appreciate the knowledge yet, and who don't see the application. What benefit is it if I know about who King so and so or Pharaoh or Kemetic knowledge back into Burkina Faso or wherever, that they don't see the practical application. So I want to talk to you about what drew you to it, and I want to talk about the what it is in the conversation that we have today to make somebody who's got a 9-to-5 job, who's got 3 kids, who lives in a townhouse in downtown Baltimore, and is trying to figure out how to make ends meet. How then do you present this to them that they would then say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let me drop not everything, but most of what I'm doing, so that I can now reorient my paradigm and reorient my thinking, my spirit, and my energy towards this culture and this science. We're going to be right back with more of the Dr. Baruch Show, talking about taking charge of your health and health literacy. You all stay tuned. There you go. That makes a big difference. We're gonna rewind and build that back up again. Again, we're on the Dr. Baruch show here at eLife Media, and we're talking about, how do we take this information? How do we take this culture, this tradition, and interest people who are caught up in the cycles of life here in the United States? Because we caught up. Folks are caught up. They work in a job. They got a car, they got a cell phone bill and a cable bill, and they living in a townhouse, and we're paycheck to paycheck, and that's the world that we're in. So we're interested in learning, one, what attracted you, and how did you then make that migration into being a part of, and where did you come from, so that we understand where you started in this. Because some of us start in a real rough space. And this comes to our attention, and we are drawn to it. So, brother Nehez Meniooh, let's start with you. What is it that attracted you, and what is it that caused you to embrace a culture that was not one that you were born into?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I am originally from Seattle, Washington. I grew up between Seattle, Washington, and Southern California. But after high school, there's a something that Walter Rodney had said in one of his writings. It was something like, "There's no world that he's been less prepared to enter than the one now he is to enter after the colonial education, after his education." And that was kind of my sentiment on leaving high school. And I tried to I tried to follow the path that is set for us who are trying to educate ourselves in the colonial territories and go to college. I attended a college in Atlanta, Georgia, a historically black college. And there I was really trying to look for something that resonated with myself, that kind of agreed with who I am, my identity. And we know for so long that so little does in the world of the colonial education and the world of the colonial society. So it did not really help, and I got really depressed being in a historically black college and seeing so many people just interested in continuing to try to be something that we are not and our ancestors were not. But while I was in school, I found a lot of reading material of information coming from writers from indigenous Africa and indigenous Americas that stuck out. And so that put me on a search. And in that seeking, I found that the prophet Nabala Musa Morodenibik, the founder of the Earth Center, had moved to Chicago, Illinois, and was starting this school to give people a way to return back through initiation to their ancestral cultures. And so I made the plan to build up the funds and relocate, and I did that in 2004 and stayed from there studying with him. So that's really what interested me, just kind of trying to find myself in a world that really seemed like it had no interest in honoring, who I am and where I was coming from.
So you didn't come from the hardcore projects of Cabrini Green and spend 15 years in the lockup and then say, there's something better for me, And that's a path of many people. Not that path is a bad path, because if the path gets you to a good destination or a good outcome, it's a good thing. But it reminds me of questions that I remember folk asking when I was more involved in a community. What interested you? What made you want to leave out of corporate America, making the resources and doing the things and having the life that you have? What made you? And what I found is that it was empty. It was empty. You could have all the resources and you could have all that attention and glory and live in the big house with the nice car, but it was an empty existence. So I too sought after a higher spiritual understanding, a higher spiritual vibration, and it was a natural flow, it was a natural outcome. And how then do you in your classes? I would suspect you teach classes and you're initiating people. Obviously, you're teaching classes. What is it about your organization, culture, tradition that attracts people to you and makes people say, you know what, I'm ready to shift from being, from being John in America to now I'm ready to be, take on a new name, a new culture, a new language, a new spirituality that is completely foreign to everybody that I've ever known and am associated with. What is it that, you all are doing, and what is it that attracts them to what it is that you're doing with regard to your classes?
Mm-hmm. I'm laughing because my colonial birth name was John. So. Really, to be honest and to kind of put it in a larger perspective, that spirit of seeking, that spirit of research that a lot of us have, and a lot of us, go through life with this kind of empty feeling inside, and that leads us to kind of trying to force a lot of things that may not be good for us or destructive in that empty feeling. A lot of us are feeling that all over, and then we kind of have to do something to silence that so that we can just try to survive in the colonial society and pay bills. But that same spirit of a seeker or spirit of research has been bringing human beings to Africa in search of higher levels of education, spiritual education, philosophical education, since the beginning of civilization. That's why, we have so much research and study now about Africa being the cradle of civilization, Africa having the first, what we call in universities, and the first education systems, and it being kind of like the high culture of education for the planet. So that is still the case. And so when people come across Kemetic knowledge and the knowledge that has been kept in the Kemetic initiations since they were being given to those priests and those pharaohs that we read about, it resonates in them, and so people are always drawn to it as long as we are doing our job at making sure that people know that it's available again.
Black Lives Matter is a real significant expression in 2016, and the police brutality and bigotry and racism, and I could go down a list of words that we're hearing in the news this year that we weren't hearing in the news 5-10 years ago. And I'm going to steal something from Will Smith. I don't do that often, but Will Smith says it ain't new. It just wasn't being reported. It wasn't in the news. This has been going on. What is your community's response? As I'm sure there are those that come to you and want to know, okay, well, what do we do? What should our response be to this reality, and why is this? Talk to me.
Okay. Yeah, to be honest, to be frank, we have to understand that if Black Lives Matter, then we have to be responsible enough to prove that to ourselves first. You can't go to a system, you can't go to institutions that have been set up on making sure to end Black life, screaming that Black life matters. Because in war, if the other person thought your life mattered, why would they be in war with you? So the first step has to be you showing yourself that Black life matters. And the thing is that if we live in existence where what comes from our ancestry, what comes from our identity isn't worth our time, we would rather copy and live the lifestyle, speak the language, carry on the customs of those who are destroying the life of our ancestors. We've already given the world the statement that Black life doesn't matter. So that's really something that we can't overlook. We tend to, the system of politics that's ruling the world now does so because it introduces actions and then that call on reactions that they know will happen. But the reality is that in nature we don't have a right to respect just because of our birth. You have to earn respect. You have to live in a way where you force the world to respect you. If you say everything that's yours isn't worth your time, everything that's someone else's, I'd rather borrow that, then you can't expect people to respect you, because why would I respect you if I can respect the original person that you're copying? So that's the thing about Black Lives Matter, is that it's a good statement, but that statement is for the self. That statement is for everybody that considers themselves black or considers their ancestry coming from black civilization. You need to prove it to yourself first.
Right. So then maybe my life matters.
Exactly.
Once my life matters, then we can go from there. We have a question coming from the audience. Sister, please tell us your name and ask your question, please.
My name is Maya.
Hold on 1 second. Let's try that one more time. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. My name is Maya, and what you've been talking about speaks to an individual and seemingly the adults. For people who may have children, what do they do to start them off on the right foot? What's the first step for someone who has a baby and wants to start them off right?
Good question, and we often get this question. I even got this question in a similar fashion on the ride over here. What really we have to remember about the education of our children is that, and even it connects to the last answer of the last question, is that more so than our words, more so than what we claim, more so than what we're trying to present the world takes us for our lifestyle and our energies and our expression. So we can tell our children not to do things, but if they see us doing them, we negate the lesson. And the bigger lesson they receive is the one that's coming from our energies. So if we want to put the next generation in a better place, if we want to put them in a place that is more progressed than the one we are in, we have to fight to do that ourselves. We have to fight to elevate ourselves, elevate our consciousness, educate ourselves, and apply the knowledge that we learned from our ancestors to return to our own identity, our own lifestyle. And the more room that we make in that, then our children will inevitably follow. If we think that we can continue living, the way that's kind of been made easy for us by our conditioning, and then put our children out there and say, okay, now you do the right thing, they will just follow what we're actually doing rather than what we're saying. So that's why the Earth Center is really focused on the adults, because the adults are the one that teach their children even more than the lessons, that are taught in the classroom.
That's what's up. We're talking to Brother Nehez Meniooh, and Brother Ibrahim Touré is here. And Brother Ibrahim, I wanted to, if it's okay, can I ask you a question? All right, that's what's up. What is it, are you from Baltimore?
No, I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay, that's urban enough, depending, if you was in North Philly, and I never know. I always say North Philly, and they say the bottom is in North Philly, right? Was that West Philly?
The bottom is in West Philly.
West Philly, okay.
That's where I was born.
Right. Oh, okay. That's what's up. Well, I always knew when I was in the bottom, people would always say, well, we need to get out of here. And that was back in the 80s, in the early and mid 80s. They said, no, we're not going to get any water. I was eating healthy and drinking water back there. When I was in school at Lincoln University, they said, no, we down at the bottom. We ain't getting out the car. You're gonna drive, into what's some of those other neighborhoods where it was a little safer. I can't think of one of them. Was like a two-name neighborhood. But anyway, it's I can imagine then you didn't grow up with this cultural understanding either, right?
Well, my background's a little bit different.
Okay, come on.
Okay, both my parents are from Sierra Leone, West Africa. So I grew up seeing my grandparents, respect some of the traditions.
Wow.
My grandfather and my grandmother and my mother, they were all initiated in their traditions. However, being in the United States, definitely I've observed changes, how some of our families change the perspective of the importance of their traditional upbringing, and how the colonial education has influenced our family members to sort of abandon, the tradition. In my case, so I was always, although I heard a lot of it, listened to the stories and communications of the traditions. What I was influenced most to do was to get an education. Don't worry about all of that.
Yep.
Go to school.
Yep.
You see, so so it was always there, but I neglected it growing up.
Sure.
Grew up. Most of my tradition was whatever my friends were doing, or
Okay.
based on outside of what my family members taught me. So I think all of us have come. You come to a point where you realize that there's something that doesn't make sense, and you begin to seek what makes sense.
There you go.
And for me, I was just my route, my path. My ancestors were guiding me all the time, and I was blessed to come across people who started, making me think about what it is I was doing. And I have to give honor and credit to the Baltimore community. When I came here to go to a school at Morgan, I met a phenomenal people who were always, shouting that something's not right. What is the correct thing? And then, we had Baltimore Rites of Passage. We had historical monuments of culture like Everyone's Place, Baba Nati,
Absolutely.
many Baba Baile here in the area, many elders, and who kept us, Baba Zarikodi, who just made us aware that there was things other than what was presented to us, and gave us other avenues to think about, and told us the stories that they learned, that they went through, that they sacrificed, their jobs, just like what Dr. Baruch, they sacrificed things that other people would consider their American dream,
Yep.
to adopt something that they found of substance, even though they looked strange,
Right.
because they were, very few in our community, very few that were holding on to something of substance, but, the rest of the world looked at them and demonized them.
Sure.
So, without those folks, and, of course, without that, I can't say that I would be here. Now, what attracted me to the Earth Center specifically, I can say honestly that the members that I met in the Earth Center, and I think of one particularly, his humility, and I didn't know much about, who he followed, Master Naba. I didn't know much about him. It was through this humble gentleman that just gave me things to think about, and eventually, he introduced me to a study group where I was able to come and sit with some of my peers who I didn't really know, and we sat and we discussed one of the few books, if not the only book on the planet, written by Dogon priest, which is called the Philosophy Podium, which their center makes available to the mass. And we would just read the book and talk about the concepts in the book. And, after that, eventually, just based on his protocol and his respect for his initiation, he reached out to his elders in the tradition, who gave us an opportunity, once we had enough persons who were interested, to have a teacher to come and educate us here in Baltimore, which means that the gentleman that I sit next to organized his things, left his place where he was comfortable, and traveled to Baltimore, where he was made as comfortable as we could, and as humble as he is. That wasn't very difficult. And he began to teach what his teacher taught him. So, when you see people make sacrifices like this, and then of course we like we've heard, we live in a marketplace. You're waiting for any con. You're ready for any con that they might throw your way. And as you watch and you see, and there are no cons being expressed, but just giving you responsibility to maintain your spiritual and your intellectual integrity, and making sure that you're responsible for yourself. You have to respect the position of those persons. So that's all I can say about that.
That's what's up. Listen, we're running out of time, and like I said, I knew based on just the beginning of our exchange here that there was going to be, this could go on for a good while, and that there's so much that I would want to know. There's so much that our listening and viewing audience would want to know, and I want to make sure that I'm asking those questions so that I could bring that information out. I want to ask you before we close out, what's going on, what's the future, what's any future projects, anything that you'd like to let the audience be aware of. Make sure you give a date and a year, because this might get viewed 10 years from now and people might be at your doorstep looking for the event. But and also, if you don't mind giving us the contact information where we can reach out to you for those of us who might be so inclined to want to participate or want to learn more about the initiation process.
Yes, thank you. The Earth Center has currently five active locations, 5 active centers around the states. We have our original center, the headquarters of the United States in Chicago, Illinois. We just moved to the south side of Chicago. We have a center in Queens, New York. We have another center in San Diego, California, another center in Charleston, West Virginia, and the center in Baltimore, Maryland. Aside from that, we have our headquarters center in Ouagadougou, which is the capital city of Burkina Faso, and we have 2 centers in England, one in London, England, and one in Birmingham, England. We are consistently, about every 6 months or so, opening the doors of initiation for other interested individuals who wish to reclaim their ancestral culture and heritage. But in addition to what we're doing in the schools, what we're offering in the Ancestral natural healing, offering consultations and health services with the healers, with the priests. We offer readings with our elders from the temples, the Kemetic temples in West Africa. We do them over the phone if you're interested in checking your energies and addressing your health on that dimension. We offer that. In addition to that, we're doing many projects in the traditional places of West Africa from which we owe this opportunity to have our ancestral knowledge available to us again. And of course, we owe that opportunity first and foremost to the man who sacrificed so much, Prophet Neb Nabala Musa Moradinabig, to uproot his life from where he was. He was already a very high spiritual master in West Africa. When he came over here with his name. He didn't come over here to make a name, to reinvent himself. He came over here and left his family behind to now fight to bring this culture back to our societies and communities over here that are in big need. But we are also showing our appreciation and support for all of those who are working to preserve this culture and this knowledge. And so we do projects like installing freshwater wells, farming projects to make sure that traditional farmers have the support and the resources to continue their traditional practices and resist, the big farming industries, Monsanto and things like that. And we are also doing a project where we are constructing a healing center, giving the Ancestral healers, the traditional healers of the area, of institution, a place where they can come and provide their services to the community, because through the age of colonialism, they've really been under attack by the modern medicine and the colonial governments, and they haven't had a place to present themselves. So we have a healing center in Togo, and aside from it being a place where the healers can heal the community there, it's also a place where we receive people who have very severe issues, kind of life-threatening issues, where they can come receive healing while receive healing and escape kind of like the lifestyle and the diet in the colonial territories that is just kind of feeding their illnesses. So that's something that we're very excited about, and it's growing continuously, and it's getting a lot of support from the traditional communities there.
Great. Well, I want to thank both of you for coming on board, and I thank you and the energy that you bring and the ancestors that you introduced us all to, or reintroduced us to. I want to thank you and express my appreciation from here at eLife Media and the Dr. Baruch Show, where we thank you.
If I can I give the contact information if
Yep.
you want to find out more information about those projects, about the classes that we offer, the initiations that we offer, the herbs that we offer, the services. You can go online to theearthcenter.org. That's TheEarthCenter.org, and check out our website. You can also call our headquarter office in Chicago at 773-942-7184. If you call it,
Give us that number again. Slow down a little bit.
773-942-7184.
Great.
That is our number in 2016 today. But we just moved, so it may be down for a couple days. We are also here in Baltimore, and I'll let you can reach us here in Baltimore at 206-383-3332. That is 206-383-3332. I know that's not a Baltimore number, but we have a cell phone here that we receive calls on, so you can reach us there. And then, as I said, there are centers in Chicago, Illinois, Queens, New York, San Diego, California, Charleston, West Virginia, Baltimore, Maryland, London, England, Birmingham, England, and Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, if you're interested.
That's what's up.
Thank you.
Again, thank you all for coming on board. This is the Dr. Baruch Show. We've been talking and sharing and learning from Brother Nehez Meniooh, and we have Brother Ibrahim Touré as well, who have blessed us with sharing with us the idea of an ancient Kemetic culture and understanding and spirituality that is called the Earth Center. We're going to be right back with more great programming. Again, I want to thank you, brothers, for coming out and sharing with us. And, hopefully those of you in the viewing and listening audience who would like to get more information will follow through and follow up and make the connection. Because a lot of the other stuff that we're connected to is not working. But anyway, we'll be back with more of the Dr. Baruch Show. Stay tuned.